Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Autumn Horse, and I'm sipping on some peach tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you'll find additional painting perks such as this one. So this painting that I did today is inspired by a photo that was sent in by one of my Patreon members by the name of Pascal. I have this benefit for my Patreon members whereby every now and again they get to submit photos. I'll select some of them, turn them into YouTube video tutorials, and I'll send the original painting off to whoever submitted the photo. So it's a really fun benefit for them to enjoy. So if you're interested in learning how you could submit your photo for me to turn into a tutorial and or learn about all of the other painting benefits that I have for my Patreon membership program, I have all of that information down below in the video description. So now it's time to get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you could certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, deep yellow, Mars black, green oxide, chrome orange, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, and fire red. And of course you can switch up those colors if you like. For my tools, I've got a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush, and I have a number 4 and a number 0 round synthetic brushes. And I might call these small, medium, and large, or I'll just call them out by their name. And of course you can switch those up if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. This will be the base coat for the tree area that's going to be behind the horse, as well as the base coat for the ground. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint. The colors that I'm going to use are yellow, orange, brown, and green. And what I'm going to be doing is in the tree area, which is going to take up about 2/3 of the canvas, 2/3 to 3/4 of the canvas. In the tree area, I'm going to be using green, brown, and orange. And we're going to be doing like a swirling type of effect to get the colors on there. And then on the ground, the base coat, will be using yellow, orange, and brown with a stippling type of technique to get the paint on. So what I first want to do is kind of separate my top portion of my canvas from my bottom portion. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown paint on my brush. I'm going to find myself about the halfway mark, which for me is somewhere in through here. And then I'm going to go almost halfway between that and the bottom. So this is about halfway between those two markers. I'm a little higher than that, so somewhere in this vicinity. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush as a measuring tool and see how high I did it on this side. And then I'm going to come over to the other side, make a little tick mark at the same height, and then just give myself a loose kind of line that goes across the canvas. So this will just separate the top from the bottom. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some more brown on my brush, and I'm really going to just in a messy fashion just kind of lay in a whole bunch of brown areas. I don't need this to be anything fancy. I'm just using kind of a circular type of brush stroke. I want it to be pretty darn messy. I don't need it to be anything fancy right now. I just need to have some sort of base coat on here that I'll be able to utilize during the painting in process. So I've got a bunch of brown on there now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some green on my dirty brush, and I'm going to start to intermingle some green areas in through here. You can overlap the brown so it blends in a little bit. You can make it blend a lot if you want, or a little. It doesn't have to be blended at all at this point. But if you wanted to get it smooth at this juncture, if you felt that that would benefit your painting style, feel free to do so. But I'm just kind of getting a base coat on here in a really messy fashion. I'm going to put some down at the bottom and through here. And again, I'm just kind of going in a circular-ish type of brush stroke. I think that looks pretty good in through there. Now I'm going to pick up a orange without washing my brush. So now I have orange on my brush, and I'm just going to do the same thing, just going to kind of fill in the remainder gaps that I have. And again, I'm not concerned about it being painted all the way. I'm not concerned about the colors blending too much or too little. Just getting a coat of paint on there in these earthy, autumny tones is going to allow me to build on top of it in a nice, believable way. So again, just kind of allowing for myself to just work that out in through there. So now what I'm going to do, I've got that whole area painted in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to wash my brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and orange. I'm going to start at the bottom of my canvas, and I'm going to be dotting in a stippling brush technique. So orange and brown. I'm going to take this down at the bottom, and you can just kind of bring it right across the bottom in through there. And I'm even going to bring it up the edges just a little bit like this. And then I'm going to also put it right along this edge right in through here where it's going to meet that tree line. So again, this is just orange and brown, and sometimes it might look a little bit more orange, sometimes it might look a little bit more brown, because I'm using both those colors on my brush at the same time. So once I've established this pretty saturated orange and brown area, now I'm going to just pick up orange for a little while on my dirty brush. And I'm going to work my way kind of up into this area here, which is going to be my brightest area, where I'm going to add some yellow as well. So right now, again, I'm just picking up orange, and I'm working my way towards that area for me, which is going to be the brightest area, which is going to be in through here. So that's pretty good for me like that. Now I'm just going to pick up yellow on my dirty brush. So because I'm not washing my brush, what's happening is I'm creating not only texture, a textured type of effect, but I'm also creating kind of a gradient of sorts from that dark color into the lighter color that I want. And because, again, I'm not washing my brush, I've got all of these little colors within my bristles that just are releasing themselves every now and again and providing me with these different tonal values within this textural element that I'm doing. And then once I've got that done, I am going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the first layer of the foliage on the trees or in the forest. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. I do recommend that you make sure that your canvas is dry before you start this step. The colors I'm going to be using are brown, orange, red, yellow, and green. And I might use a little white as well, but I haven't decided on that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm in essence going to be doing a second layer on this entire top section in the brush stroke of that stippling. So I'll be dotting it. I did an extra step on here because I want more depth in those trees. The ground is kind of flat and we don't need a ton of depth there, but in the forest, if we wanted to feel like it's got some good depth between the trees and leaves and stuff, building more layers like this will help us do that. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be dotting. I'm going to be using the colors that I mentioned to, in essence, just put another layer on this. I do have a little area down at the bottom in through here where I have this green area that looks to me, from the photo reference I'm using, like it's like a low-lying bushes or shrubs down where the trees meet the ground. So I'm going to be doing a lot of green down in through there. Where I already have green areas, I'll be enhancing those with more green, maybe some brown, maybe a little yellow. And then in the areas where I have orange and brown, I'll probably be using more orange, yellow, and red as my second coat. So I think I'm going to start with my my orange yellow areas. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of red on my brush. So let's say up in through here, if I want to enhance this area with an additional layer. So I have red on my brush, and I'm just going to be using this stippling type of brush stroke. Because I'm not going to be using white until the end of this step, if I use white at all, I will be able to see through my paint and see and have the color underneath take on an effect. So if I put red on brown, it's going to look darker than if I put red on my orange. So you can see the difference in those two areas. And you don't have to go just red on orange. You can put red intermingling with some of your green if you want to. That's going to make it look really nice and autumny. I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange as well, so I can just kind of get a second layer in here. And again, I'm just dotting as opposed to swirling my brush. I think I want to put some red down here. So I think I'm going to hit a lot of the areas where I want the red, maybe a little bit of brown. So just kind of giving myself these darker kind of dark reddish rusty type of areas. So right now I'm kind of flipping back and forth between orange, red, and brown, and just getting some really deep areas in through here where I know my I'm kind of watching the photo in essence where I'm seeing the dark reddish brownish areas, and I'm trying to follow that a little bit because I know that it helped my eye really see the outline of the horse. So in this area in through here, there's a lot of red, orange, brown. So I'm just kind of incorporating that around this area so I can make sure that that horse pops out as much as it does in the photo. So when you're emulating photos, especially with kind of a complicated or a seemingly complicated structure to the details, if you can kind of grasp onto color patterns and things of that nature, even if you don't get every single little piece of detail exactly as it is in the photo, if you can hang on to, I see an orange area over here, so let me put some orange paint over there. That will help you even if you don't put the exact leaf exactly where it's supposed to be or where it is in the photo. I just picked up some red and now I'm picking up some brown. It will really help you get a good representation of that photo. So that's looking pretty good. I see some more orangey areas up and through here. I'm actually going to pick up orange and yellow. I feel like I can get away with some orange and yellow up in this area, up and through here. I guess I'm saving my green areas for last, my green and my brown areas for last, I guess. I am going to have my sun is going to be in this area as well, so I know that there's going to be a lot of bright stuff up and through there. I feel there's some more yellow up and through here, and I'm not doing a lot of heavy paint, just kind of looking at the photo and saying, okay, well, I see a little yellow here, I see a little red and orange there, and I feel like I do want to make sure that I have a full second coat on this greenery area or on the forest area before I say that I'm done. So I'm just kind of looking around and saying, okay, well, did I hit this area yet? Did I hit that area yet? And I'm just dotting, so I'm not doing anything super fancy, just allowing for these dots to give the impression of leaves. So I'm thinking that that's pretty good with my red, orange, brown, yellow stuff. So I'm going to start picking up green, and I'm going to, I think green and brown is what I'm going to hit right now, and I'm going to start to put a second coat on this area in through here. So green and brown. My horse is again in through here, so I don't really need to do much, but I just definitely want to just have a second coat, whatever that coat may be. So that looks pretty good. I don't even know if this whole bush line goes up that high, but we're just going to put it there because the horse is going to cover it anyways. And then again, this is just green and brown, just kind of dotting this in through here. And we will have a final step for this foliage that will put even more dimension into it. But right now, I'm going to pick up a little bit more orange too. Right now, I'm just kind of getting in that second coat to satisfy what I feel is necessary. So just picking up a little bit more green on my dirty brush, maybe some brown too. Green and brown is going on my brush in through here to get these deep tones into, I'm seeing some, darker greenish kind of areas in through here. So that's where I'm headed with my second coat. And you, of course, could make this into a summer painting. You could make it into a winter painting if you wanted to. That's going to be totally up to you. Just kind of building these trees. The reference that I'm using is very focused on the horse, and all the stuff in the background really kind of just becomes background noise. So don't feel that you have to make it photorealistic. It can really be kind of out of focus, just impressionistic dots, dashes, things of that nature to give you that real depth. We are going to put trees on top of this, and then we're going to put a final layer of the leaves. So again, don't feel that you have to get this really perfect at this point. I'm going to pick up a little yellow too. Again, this is going to be my sunshiny area here, so enhancing it a little bit more will work out. And then I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this second coat on your forest area, you can wash and dry this. Just making sure I hit all my spots here. You can wash and dry this big brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the leaves on the ground, or finish the ground. I think I'm almost finishing the ground. We still have a shadow to go and maybe some final details, but we're going to just about finish the ground right now. I'm using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are white, yellow, orange, brown, and maybe a little bit of red. I did mention in the previous step that I was going to use some white in this background, but I obviously decided not to because I just didn't want to taint it too much. So we'll put the lighter stuff on that later. But on the ground, we are definitely going to put some lighter stuff. I'm again going to be doing the same brush stroke, which is that stippling type of application. I'm going to keep it darker down in the bottom left and right, especially the bottom left, still dark along that edge. Just, really close to the edge. And then this is going to be my really light area. And I'm going to be dotting on some more visible or in focus kind of leaves, maybe some bigger kind of leaves down at the bottom too. I'll have a little bit lighter down here than it is right now. So we're going to be, again, using that same brush stroke. I'm going to start from my dark and work my way to the light. And we'll just be overlapping it. So I'm going to start with some brown and orange on my brush at the same time. And again, I'm in essence doing the same thing I did on the first round, only by doing this second layer, it's going to make it look more kind of a finished look, and it's going to allow you to have a lot more texture in it. And I'm not dotting one spot 1,000 times. I'm just kind of dotting it and moving on. So that way it remains textured looking and doesn't overblend it. The overblending will make it smooth looking. And I don't want this to necessarily look smooth. I want it to look nice and textured. So that's why I'm just kind of stabbing at it, for lack of a better terminology. I just picked up some more orange up here to kind of get that area. I'm going to do the same thing down in this bottom right. Again, this is with my orange and brown, and just doing a second coat on in through here. And again, just dotting, not picking up or blending it out too much, just giving myself that second layer. I'm gonna come on up and through here, just making sure that that I haven't missed any spots and that it's nice and fully realized up in through there. So now that's pretty good. Now I got to move my way towards the middle. So without washing my brush, I'm going to pick up some yellow paint because I do want there to be some yellow kind of intermingled with this orange as it's coming out the sides. So I'm picking up some orange and I'm being pretty heavy with the quantity of paint on my brush in order to have it really have an effect on top of that orange. I don't need to do the whole area, but I do definitely want to have some of this yellow effect in through here. And again, I'm not over blending, so it is allowing me to see the difference between the yellow and the oranges and let them work together as opposed to let them have kind of their own little speckly marks as opposed to just blending all in as one color. And then again, just kind of doing this in through here, and the yellow is transparent, so it's going to see those colors underneath. You can even put a little bit of the yellow on top of these darker areas. It's not going to make it too much lighter. It's just going to give it a couple of little pops of that yellow tone in there, as if maybe there's a couple of leaves that have, you know, just kind of fallen and just kind of made their way into that area. Up in through here, I definitely am going to be using my yellow, but I'm also going to be incorporating some white onto my brush so I can get this to be a lot lighter in through here. So I'm going yellow plus a touch of white. You just want to be careful with the white that you don't overdo it, because it can really just turn the whole thing super light and really solid, a solid color on you. So I'm just being cautious with it, just kind of tapping it on, just very light pressure is what I'm doing. And this is allowing me to blend it out in a nice natural way, but still have those little bright pops in there that's going to allow for it to look like there's leaves that have little shiny spots on them from that beautiful sun that we're going to have shining through the trees. So I've got this going on in through here, and I don't want it to necessarily look systematically polka dotted. So as I do this, I just kind of try and make it, you know, maybe a little bit more in one area, a little bit less in another area. I can also use orange with a little bit of white. So I just put orange with a little bit of white on my brush as well. This will give you some more, I don't want to call it pinky tones, but you can get some additional tones within the leaves that are on the ground if you combine the orange with the white a little bit. And then I'm just kind of coming through down in through this bottom area to give myself a couple of more lighter spots. Again, I know that my horse is kind of in through here, and I do want up behind that horse to be pretty darn light, again, because the bottom of the horse, the underside of the horse, is going to be shadowed. And for that shadowed part of the horse to really be visible, there is a light patch of ground behind it. So I'm making sure that I have that light patch of ground behind where the body of the horse is going to be. So the body of the horse is going to be in through here. So I want to have this light patch of leaves behind it, again, so we can get that horse to really pop out. If you don't get it 100% right now, don't worry about it. We can certainly amp it up later. But if you can get it as much as you can right now, that will only make your process a little bit easier. And then I'm just going to pop in these little light marks. And again, just try not to make it look too systematic. I will let mine dry, and then if there's additional areas once it dries that I feel could use a little more of this or a little less of that, I certainly would do that. You can pick up a tiny bit of red. I don't know if I said I was going to use red, but if you felt that you wanted to incorporate a little bit of red in there, feel free to do so. That's going to be a judgment call on your part. And then once you've got this done, we're going to be using our number 4 round for the next step. So you can put this large brush away, take out some sort of medium to small round brush. If you can stop these leaves, this is one of those steps that I have trouble stopping. And you can just get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to be doing for the next step is we're going to be painting tree trunks and branches. I'm going to be using my number 4 round brush. The colors I'm going to be using are brown and black. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to be doing is very minimal work. In the photo reference, you can hardly see any of these tree trunks or branches. They're hidden really deep in all of these leaves and behind the sun. So we're just going to be doing minimal amount of work here. But I do want it to be representational of the photo. So in order to do that, I want to kind of place the main tree trunks and branches in my painting where I see them on the photo. I don't need to get all of them 100% in exactly the right spot, but if you can pick out a couple of main ones, especially when you're doing a forest type of scene, that will definitely give the representation of that photo. So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown on my brush and a touch of black. And I do see that over on this left-hand side that there is and a little bit of water on my brush too, because I want to have some fluidity to my brush stroke. So I do see that, so my horse is going to be in through here, and kind of near the rear end of the horse, I see a couple of tree trunks kind of scooting their way out of the forest in through here. And again, they're pretty faint in their dominance to the scene. So I'm not going to be making them super dark. I mean, they're dark, but I don't have to go all the way black with them. So that's why right now I'm just kind of using a brown black with a little bit of water on my brush. So I'm almost giving them a little bit of a transparent look to them at the moment. Because I know that I want it to really intermingle well with my leaves. And in a future step, we're going to be overlapping some leaves into the, with the trees. So this allowing for some of those colors to play with the tree trunk itself will be fine, because you can come back on the next step and just where this yellow is still showing, you can pop on some more leaves that are in front of that. Or you can go a little bit more less transparent, and you can really cover up the that background, and it will make a different approach to doing those tree trunks. But I'm going to kind of do it in a really loose way with my brown and black and a little bit of water, just kind of giving myself the just the hint of where those tree trunks and branches are. I see a couple kind of popping up in between these trees up in through here. So I'm just going to kind of use the tip of my brush with a little bit of that paint on there. And you can see I'm just kind of scooting it up in through here. Again, we're going to have those, a lot of those leaves and stuff that are going to be overlapping these on a future step. This just really gives, again, that dimensional and depth into the forest as we build it. So that's looking pretty good in through there. There's another one that's going to be kind of behind my horse, somewhere in through here. So this is going to be kind of behind that horse's neck and mane. And again, I'm using my black and brown with, you can use it with or without a little bit of water. The brown is going to obviously be of a lighter tone. So if you do just want to have it non-transparent, you could certainly just use the brown if it's going on something that's a little bit lighter, and that'll work for that as well. And then again, just kind of seeing where I see little branches. I see maybe there's a little branch coming out in through here, and then just once you've got the dominant ones that you see in the photo, then you can just kind of say, okay, well, I see a whole bunch of little stuff up top, so I'm going to just kind of take my watered down paint and just give myself the illusion of a couple of, tall branches up and through there. And then over, so my horse's head is somewhere in through here, almost right in the center of my canvas. I feel like there should be maybe another one somewhere in through here, and maybe up in through here, something like that, like right behind that horse's head a little bit. And yeah, somewhere in through there. And then I've got maybe one over in through here. And again, they don't have to be exact, but if you can get like a good representation of the direction of a trunk, or, you know, if you've got a lot of little skinny ones over here, just putting a lot of those little skinny ones, again, just to give you that representation of what you're seeing in the photo. I'm seeing kind of a big one that scoots right up to the top of the scene, almost like right behind that sun. So I'm just going to kind of get this to go all the way up in through here. And it doesn't, again, even have to be a perfect line. Trees definitely don't always go super straight up, so you can really get them to bend and stuff. And if you do one that you're saying, oh my God, that was just too much, don't worry, because you can hide it with leaves afterwards. So that's definitely a bonus to doing a scene like this, because you can always disguise things with the multiple layers. Especially in the way that I'm doing this one here, we did in essence kind of the back leaves, then we're putting on the trees and the tree trunks, and then we're going to put the leaves that are closest to the viewer. So I built it from the back forward, except for the sun. That's going to be its own entity that we're going to put in a little while. So again, I'm still just using my brown and black in varying thicknesses or viscosities. So the thinner it is, it's going to be more transparent. The thicker it is, the less transparent it's going to be. So that's going to be the viscosity of it and how much water I am using in it. Or for you, maybe you use liquid medium as opposed to water. That'll be totally up to you. And I'm thinking that that's pretty good. We can always add additional branches and stuff like that later if you feel the need to, but I'm thinking that that's going to do me pretty good for the representation that I want to do. And then I am going to be using my large brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this medium round away, take out your large bristle, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the trees. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, green, yellow, white, red, and orange, all of my colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put my sun on yet. I'll put that on in a future step, but I will be putting a little bit of the effects of the sun on some of the leaves, making them look a little bit lighter. I am going to be working from dark to light. So first I'm going to start with my black and my brown and make sure all of the areas that I want to be dark are as dark as I want them to be. And then I'm just going to build to my light, which will be the lighter leaves. I'm going to predominantly be using that stippling or dotting effect. I'm going to most of the time just be using the tip of my brush so I can get just little speckly marks. I might, when it comes to making individual sparkles on some of the leaves, I might switch to one of my small rounds, but if I can get away with doing it with this one, I will. So again, I'm going to start with my dark colors and just work my way to the light. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of black and brown on my brush. And when I mean tiny bit, you can even just tap it off on your paper towel. The black and the brown can easily get away from you and turn the whole thing dark. So just use a very little bit at a time. So I definitely want to kind of darken the back side of this bush in through here. So again, I'm just kind of tapping it, making for a nice dimensional effect to occur. I don't really know what's going to happen. This is going to be where my horse is, so I'm just going to kind of allow for a little bit of darkness to be back in through there. This doesn't matter. My horse is coming on in through here. And then about halfway in my canvas, I'm going to, my horse is going to occupy like this amount of space, so I don't really care about that. I'm just going to go to the right of that, pick up a little bit more green or black and brown. The reason why I'm not working too hard on here, again, my horse is going to go there and I don't want to have accidentally a lot of super dark areas and or thick areas, that's going to make my horse look bumpy. So I'm just going to kind of leave that for my horse purposes. And then I feel like this looks pretty good in through here. So I'm just kind of adding a little bit more darkness in through here, maybe a little bit more over in through here. And again, I'm just kind of watching my photo where I see that there is a little bit more darkness than I have already created on that first pass. Again, just a little bit of black and brown. I'm going to move my way up. This I feel is pretty good in through here, maybe just a tiny bit more darkness. And again, I'm just kind of speckling it and making sure I don't have too much black on my brush. I'm being cautious about that. I feel there should be a little bit more darkness in through here. So again, just kind of dabbing it on here, allowing for that those deep tones within those leaves to really take shape. I see that there's a little bit more darkness up and through here. So again, I've got brown predominantly on my brush right now with a little bit of black, but not much. I know the brown will sink and be a little bit darker as it dries, but that's looking pretty good over there. In through here is pretty good. Maybe a little bit more brown on this fellow right in through here. That's pretty good. That's good. Good darkness in through here. Just that one little spot could use a bit more. And then over here, I feel this stuff is pretty good. Maybe a little bit more brown on these bottom ones in through here. So you can still see the green, but maybe just a little bit more deepness in those brown tones. That looks pretty good. And again, I'm not overdoing it. Just kind of dabbing those little tones in through there, making sure that I've got what I want. So that's good for the brown and black darkness. Now I'm going to start building my way to the light. I feel like I might not need too much red, but red is my next darkest color. So I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of red on my dark brush. Just make sure I've got as much red tones as I want. That looks pretty good. I think I maybe want a little bit more red right in through here, above or behind the horse in through here, because that horse's rear end, I want them to pop out a lot, and getting this nice deep dark red tone around it will work well with the contrast. So that looks pretty good in through there. Maybe a little bit more red in through here. Again, just kind of working off of what I'm seeing in my photo. That looks pretty good. I think that's pretty good for the reds. I am now going to wash my brush because I do have the black and brown on my brush with that red, and I don't want the rest of my colors to go too dark. So I'm got to control that by oops, there goes my paper towel. Got to control that by taking those dark tones off of my brush. So now I'm going to work into I feel like I want to do my oranges and yellows before I get to my greens, because I feel like the green colors feel in the photo like they're closer to the viewer. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange and yellow on my brush at the same time, a little bit of each, and I'm going to just kind of pop these little bright sparkly marks in where I feel I'm seeing them in the photo. So this is orange and yellow. I've got a whole bunch of little kind of twinkly spots in through here, and I'm just tapping the corner of my brush, and this is giving me just these little pockets of twinkly little autumn leaves that are just popping through. And this is where, if you felt that this brush was not the right size for you to accomplish this task, you could certainly pick up a smaller brush. But for me, I like my bigger brushes because I can get a lot of work done with them. So I feel, and that if I can control that tip the way that I feel is necessary for that task, I just go for it. And you can overlap your trunks too. So don't feel that if you are going through this process, a lot of these leaves are in front of the trunks, so feel free to overlap those as much as you want. And again, just think of these as little tiny dots. So again, yellow and orange are on my brush. Feel like I got a lot of little yellow and orange spots up in through here. And these are the leaves that are predominantly, again, in my painterly eye, I'm seeing a lot of the green leaves are closer to the viewer. So these orange and yellow ones feel like they're pushed behind the green ones. So I can just kind of pop these little bright spots in between some of these green leaves, and that's going to make it look like they're behind the green leaves. And my yellow again is transparent, so it's not going to be as bright as I want it right now, but I can in a minute, when I go for my final little highlights, I can pop a couple of spots with yellow and white or orange and white, and that's going to give me the extra little pop of brightness. And again, my sun is going in through here, so that's going to give me that extra brightness I'm going to desire in through there. So this is looking pretty good up in through here. And I'm going right over those trunks because I'm cool with that, because that's what I feel is happening. So now I'm actually going to make myself a light green color. I'm gonna wash and dry my big brush, but I'm going to use my number 4 to pre-mix myself a light green color, which I have magically already done on my palette here. How I got to this color is green, yellow, and a little bit of white. So I'm just going for, I would call this kind of a light green, kind of a lime green type of a color. Just something that's a couple of tones lighter than my green oxide and has a little bit more yellow in it. And then this is going to play really well on top of what we've already done as a nice highlight color to the green stuff. So I washed and dried my big brush. I've got my light green tone, and now I can start just adding little tiny highlights on my green areas. So your green areas might not be exactly in the same spot that my green areas are, which is totally fine. You can have yours wherever you want them to be. Again, I'm just kind of modeling mine after the photo reference. And if you're going into an area and you say, oh, that's a little bit too much or that's not enough, you can always revert, wipe your brush off, pick up a little bit of the green oxide, maybe a little bit of brown, and just kind of dot yourself in a darker green area, whatever, again, is visually appealing to you. And then I'm going to move on to some additional light green areas. I would say there's some nice light green up in through here. And you'll see as I start to build this light green, I'm not going to put it on everything. I'm just putting on these little pockets of leaves that I feel are kind of popping out a little bit more to the viewer. You can do you could do multiple tones of light green if you wanted to. You could even use this light green with a little bit of white. You could use your green oxide with a little bit of white. It doesn't have to be, and nor should it always be, the same tone or the same exact color of light green. So as I'm going through this, maybe in this area here, maybe it's not the light green I pre-mixed, maybe it's a green oxide plus a touch of white. So this is going to be kind of a more muted light green where it doesn't have as much yellow in it, because maybe this area over here is taking on a different shimmer from that light source. So know that there doesn't just have to be one shade of light green. As I come up here, maybe I just picked up a little bit of green oxide with whatever was on my brush. So I've got, another tone of green up and through here. You could use green with orange. You could, just have fun with the different values as you go through these leaves, because that's what's going to visually happen when you're looking into a forest full of autumn colored leaves. They're all going to kind of intermingle with one another. I feel like this needs a little bit of maybe orange, breaking it up a little bit. And you can, of course, as you're going through your process, if you feel that you want anything lighter or darker or, more exciting or less exciting, those are the decisions that you can make as you're going through your process. And then I'm going to, in a second, take on maybe, I'm thinking that's looking pretty good, maybe a little bit more excitement down in through here. I'm actually going to pick up a tiny bit of yellow and white on my dirty brush so I can get a couple of little, maybe a additional pops down in through here. And yellow and white is a great little highlight color that you can use too. I'm gonna now wash and dry my brush so I can get a couple of yellow and white pops of brightness, especially up towards that top. So a tiny bit of yellow and a tiny bit of white and a little bit more yellow than that, and just wipe it off on my paper towel. And then that white, in addition to the yellow on your brush, is going to give you the ability to make these lighter spots not so transparent. I am actually going to switch brushes to my number 4 round because I want my marks to be smaller. So I'm going yellow and white, and I can make these little smaller marks in through here. This is going to just give me a little bit more control on the tiny marks that I want to make, especially around that where that sun is going to be. So again, using different size brushes to make different size marks will behoove you if that's what you need to do. So I know that I want some smaller marks around where my sun is going to be, especially because I want these little leaves to look like they're twinkling from that sun. So I wasn't able to accomplish it with my bigger bristle brush, so that's when I said, oh, okay, let's just switch brushes now and give myself the ability to make these smaller kind of just polka dotty type of marks in order to give me these little bright spots around where that sun is going to be. And it can be the yellow and the white, it can be the light green and the white, it can be any version of a light tone that is going to give you that representational look of these leaves having the little twinkle marks from that sun. But again, just try to be inconsistent with your marks, making them smaller or bigger or clustered together. Maybe you pop 1 or 2 over, over in through here. Like there's a couple of leaves in these areas that are just kind of catching just itty bitty bit of whatever that whatever the twinkles from the shiny leaves are, yellow, white, orange, white. You could even go red and white. So whatever, like I just picked up a little bit of orange and white to catch a couple of little marks in through here. You could put a couple of little marks up and through here. So wherever you feel you want to put those little twinkles, feel free to do so. Again, keep it kind of inconsistent so you have a variety of spots poking through with the sun shining on them. And then we're going to be using our bristle brush, the large bristle brush, for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, make any little fiddling adjustments that you want, take out your bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the sun shining through the forest. I'm using my large bristle brush. The dominant color I'm going to be using is white, but I might go into a little yellow as well, and if I run into any other trouble, I'll go into other colors too. But I think I'm just going to be using, for the most part, white. So I'm going to have my sun up in this area, up and through here. I want just in the photo, it's actually like an oval type of a shape. So I'm not quite sure how this is happening, if it's some kind of photo of effect from the photography of this or what happened, but it's super cool, so I wanted to paint it. It's like an oval shape, and it just kind of splays out and casts this beautiful glow on all of the trees next to it. So my brush is clean and as dry as I could get it. It might be a little damp, but you're going to want to make sure that it's pretty darn dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a teeny bit of white paint. So just a teeny tiny bit of white paint. And I'm going to find my spot that I want. So I'm probably down maybe 3 or 4 inches and maybe in maybe 3 inches. And of course, yours doesn't have to be in exactly the same spot as mine. And I'm going to have my spot here, and I'm just going to kind of go in an oval type of a shape like this. So I am using a firm bristle brush, which is allowing me to kind of keep moving that paint until I can kind of brush it out as far as I can get it. what I'm also doing is, because I have very little bit of paint on my brush, it's allowing me to kind of dry the paint as I do this. So the paint is not, it's almost dry right now. So I can kind of just keep layering this as I want to, but I've got to just be careful that I don't overwork a specific spot. So I can keep layering on inside that center. But if you don't want to go all the way white in the center right away, then just do the thin layers and just kind of work your way out. And you might find that you want to put 4 layers, 5 layers, however many layers that you want in order to get that effect that you want. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of start allowing myself to kind of rub it outwards and get it to softly kind of put this sheen or glow on the trees around it. And as I'm doing this, I'm using what's referred to as a dry brush technique. So it's allowing me to, in essence, kind of scrub it on top of my trees, which would behoove you if your trees were dry right now, which I probably should have forewarned you about that, but I'm sure you figured that part out. And it's giving me this nice kind of glaze on top of them. You could also do this with a little bit of water on your brush. That will give you a similar type of effect, but you just have to be careful of, again, that center. So my center right now is still pretty wet, and I'm nervous that I'm going to add too much to it and it's going to start lifting it off. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to put a tiny bit of water on my brush, just a little bit of, and it was even dirty water, and I'm going to just kind of bring a little bit of this white out just a little bit further as, again, like a glaze. I'm safe to do this with the water on my brush when I have very little bit of paint on it, especially on these outer areas. This, you could also kind of pull the paint out farther if you wanted to do like little streaks. And I'm going to give that a second to kind of dry before I hit that center again. While that's drying, I feel like I want to put a couple of little lighter spots on my other leaves, kind of like the effects of the sun. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that light green, which I didn't say I was going to use, and white. And I feel like I want to kind of add a little bit more glow to these leaves and stuff that are neighboring that sun. So this is just a little bit of that light green and white, maybe a couple little dots over here, maybe a little bit in through here. So this, again, I felt that when I was finishing that last step that I had gotten some of these light enough, or that I got all my leaves as light as I wanted. But now that I'm seeing how that beautiful sun is going to have an effect in the area, I'm saying maybe I want them a little bit lighter. And so you can continue to add these little shiny spots. Maybe even I'm going to pull out my small round, or my number 4 round brush as well. You can add more of these little twinkle spots. Like I feel like I want to have more over in through here. So again, as you're developing this, don't ever say, "Oh, I'm done. I can't add any more to there," because the painting's not done until you sign it. So you can keep adding until you feel that that you've got as much stuff on there as is making your painterly eye happy, or is as representational to that image that you want it to be. So you can just kind of keep adding. It's tough because sometimes when you're doing these little, especially paintings that have lots of these tiny little details, you can really get carried away and just, paint for days and days and days. I just keep adding little dots and stuff. Not only am I doing this because I want to, but I'm also kind of stalling on my sun for it to dry so I can add another layer to that before the step is over. But these additional twinkles are making me very happy. So I'm just going to continue to make them until I feel that my sun is dry enough for me to reattend. But again, you can certainly make as many little twinkles and dots as you feel are necessary. I'm going into orange, yellow, and white now too. But I'm using many more colors in this step than I had anticipated. But that's, you know, that's the name of the game. As you're doing these steps, you can utilize whatever colors you're looking, you know, that you've used, harmonizing your painting by incorporating those colors elsewhere in it. Maybe a couple down in through here. As I'm doing this, I'm seeing more and more and more that I just want to add little twinkles to. I'm thinking that that's pretty good. Maybe a couple more over here. And then once I've got this, I am going to go back up to that sun and add another layer to it. So just, you know, a couple more twinkles here and there. You can never have enough twinkles, right? You can just keep making them and keep making them. And I'm calling them twinkles, but we'll just call them highlighted leaves. So that's looking good. All right, I'm going back to that sun. So my brush is got some green on it, so I'm going to wash and dry it. And I just want to add another layer to it, and I'm thinking I'm pretty safe to do so now. So washing and drying, putting a tiny bit more white on my brush, and just going in and doing it again. So going in and putting that brightness right in the center, and then I can take it and then just softly kind of diffuse it along the edges. And again, there's lots of methods to accomplish this kind of effect. So finding the one that is right for you is, you know, how you master that particular effect. You can practice on old canvases, which I do a lot. You can, you know, practice and then paint over it, and then practice and paint over it, and just continue to have those effects. I'm actually going back into my number 4 right now to add a couple more little twinkles right in this sun area, right in through here, right around the edges of it, to catch more of those twinkles along those leaves that are just surrounding the sun. And then again, this is one of those steps that I would definitely let it dry and then come back, you know, look at it from a distance and see if there's any additional little marks I want to make. I might go in and do one more layer on top of that sun just to give it that final pop, picking up a little bit of yellow and white right now just to get more little twinkles right around the edge of that sun. And then we're going to be using our drawing utensil for the next step. So once you've got this as much as you want it to be, you can put whatever brush you're using right now away, take out a drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna draw an outline for our horse. I'm gonna be using a piece of chalk as my drawing utensil. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I do again recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step as well. I'm gonna be guiding you through a series of shapes and markers, and we're going to connect these shapes and markers. And by the time we're done, we're going to have something that looks like a horse that is just, you know, having fun in an autumn landscape. I think it's just kind of like trotting along, enjoying the nice weather. But I'm going to first guide you through some circles, and then we're going to connect those circles, and we're going to have the shape of a horse when we're done. So what you'll want to do is find yourself the center of your canvas. So left to right, top to bottom. The center of mine I've already marked here is somewhere right about here. That's almost dead center of the first circle I'm going to be making, which is going to represent the head of the horse. So my circle is going to be a little bit to the right and lower. So the center of my circle is actually going to be somewhere about here. So just a little bit down and to the right. My circle is going to be about 1.5 inches wide by 1.5 inches tall. So you could measure if you wanted to, you know, about 3/4 of an inch away from the center of the circle. So if this is the center and then you measure, you know, about 3/4 of an inch, or just, you know, eyeball almost 1 inch, 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and then you can measure away from that center, and you can make a whole bunch of little markers that are at that exact distance away from that center, and then you can connect them, and that's going to give you a circular type of a shape. because you have made a number of points that are exactly the same distance away from that center. So somewhere in through here, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle at this point. We're just doing something that's going to guide us through the shape of the head. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another circle that's about half this size, a little distance away. So maybe about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch away is where the start of that circle is going to be. And then you could do the same exercise with finding the center, but I'm just going to draw myself a little circle that's about half the size of that first circle. So something like this. So that's going to represent where the muzzle is. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 more circles, and then we'll get everything connected. So my next circle is going to be the chest area. So in through here is going to be my next circle. It's almost double the size of this one. So whatever you have for here, you can almost double it. So that mine's about 1.5 inches. And then my next circle is about 2 3/4. So it's almost double what that is. So the center of my circle is going to be somewhere in through here, which is about 1 inch to the left of here, and then about 1 to maybe 2.5 inches down from here. So that'll be the center. And if it's 2 3/4, it would be a little under 1.5 inches for to the left, to the right, up and down, to give you those subsequent markers that'll guide you into that circular shape. And again, you could certainly measure it with a brush or with a ruler or whatever you want. So something like this will guide me into my second circle that is about almost double the size of that one. And the right side of this circle is almost lined up with the left side of this one. It's a little bit to the right of the left side of that one. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another circle that's this size that's going to overlap this one a little bit, and it's going to be a little higher. So it's going to overlap it right about here, and the height of it is going to be, I would say, almost maybe about 1 inch higher. So if the center of my circle is somewhere in through here, it's going to be the same kind of distance as that. So you could, again, make yourself subsequent markers, maybe the center somewhere about there. Make yourself subsequent markers away from it, and then connect those, and you're going to have another circle that's going to represent the part of the rear end of your horse. So something like that. Now we get to connect all of our circles. So the first one that I'm going to connect is here to here. So I'm going to take this and just give myself a curved line like that. And then the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the top of this one to the top of this one. This is going to be the back of the neck. Like this, it's going to come down and scoop. It's coming down a little bit further than there because the horse is in motion here, so the butt is kind of up in the air. And then what I'm going to do is I'm connecting the easy ones first. I'm going to connect the front of this to the top of this one with maybe just a little scoop like that. Now I've got to kind of make additional shapes here. So I'm going to come to the bottom of this circle, something like this. I'm going to go to the left just a little bit and down maybe about 1/2 inch. Give myself a marker. I'm now going to connect here to here, and then I'm going to connect here to here. I'm going to give myself a couple of additional bumps on the nose. So I'm going to give myself a little bump for a nostril up at the top there, and then a little extra area down at this bottom part for just the square part of the muzzle down in through there. I'm going to give myself a couple of ears, just little tiny ears up in through here. They don't have to be perfect shape right now. Just give yourself kind of a marker where you want them to be. So now we're going to make some legs. The horse is the horse is in motion. So I'm going to do the legs that are closest to us or on our side of the horse first, and then we'll put the far legs on. So we're going to do the easiest one first, which is going to be the front leg. So I'm going to come straight down from the center of this circle right in here, and then I'm going to go to the left of that about 1/2 inch. I'm going to come straight down to until I am about an inch away from the bottom of my canvas, and I'm going to come to the right and give just a little bit and give myself the bottom of that hoof. So this width up here should be a little bit wider than this width here, and it's just off to the right a little bit. And then I'm just going to bring this down. It doesn't have to be in a straight line, but there you could make a little kind of knee area right about here where it just bumps out just a little bit, and then narrow it just a little bit more into that ankle. And then at the foot, there's a little kind of bump or joint before the hoof happens, and then there's a little hoof in through here. And we'll make it fancier looking when we paint, but that'll get you started for the outline. So the back leg that's closest to us, it's going to come out of here, of the up at the top. That's going to be the back thigh, and then you'll find the meeting point from this circle to the to this under area right in through here. So it's going to come out in through here, and then so this is going to be the thigh, and the foot is going to be somewhere in through here. So I'm going to come up maybe 1-2 inches, give myself a marker, and I'm in maybe about 1.25 inches or something like that. So that'll be the tip of the hoof. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little thigh. So I'm going to come down like this and like this. This is going to be where the joint is. So I can bring this out just a little bit for a little joint and come down here. And then I'm going to bring this down pretty narrow in through there. And then right about in through here, which is just give you an equivalent of where it is on the other one. It's almost at the same height as like this knee, maybe a little bit lower, is where the foot is going to start to turn for the little ankle. So right in through here, you've just got a little bit of a bump, and then I've got my hoof in through there, something like that. Now I'm going to do the other back leg, which is going to be in through here. So I'm going to come down this belly, maybe about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to go to the right of that. I would say maybe almost 1 inch, maybe about halfway between here and here, somewhere in through here. And then the tip of the foot is going to be right down in through here. So this is just a little bit higher than this one. And it is almost lined up with here, maybe a little bit inside like that. So again, I need a thigh. So I'm going to put a thigh on like this. I'm going to curve this in like this, and we're going to give the equivalent of this right in through here. So I'm going to take this back like that, and then I'm going to take this down, and this is going to be the skinny part of the leg in through here. We're coming into the ankle area, which is equivalent to that, and this one just kind of bumps out a little bit like that, and then we have the hoof on the end like that. And then this leg is going to be up in the air, and it's behind this one in through here. So the top part is going to meet right next to this one in through here. And then this one we actually need to put a little bit of the chest on. So I'm going to take from here, I'm just going to bump it out just a little bit because that circle would have made it too narrow. And then this is going to start, these two marks are going to start this leg in through here. I got to bring it to a place where it has a knee. So if this leg is the equivalent to this leg and it's lifted up, if I have the knee here, the knee on the other one will be up higher in the air. So I can take this and I can bring it down maybe to the right a little bit, bring it down to the right a little bit, and when it's a little bit higher than wherever you had this joint, that's where you're going to start to bend it like this. That's going to give you the knee area. And then it can get really nice and narrow into that ankle, and then the hoof slash joint area is going to hide right behind that leg in through there. So something like that. And then that is all I'm going to do for my drawing. The mane, I don't need to put that on because that's just going to be a very minimal amount. You can make any fiddling adjustments that you feel are necessary. I'm going to be using my medium round for the next step, so you can just get it out and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat onto the horse. I'm going to be using my number 4 round brush. The colors I'm using are white, black, and brown. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix myself a medium to light gray tone to use as the base coat for the horse, which I have magically already done on my palette. And so you can see where I'm headed. So this is the tone I'm going for right here, which you can see it next to my white, how different it is. How I achieved this is a lot of white and then a little bit of black and a good amount of brown. Those are my exact measurements. So what I'm looking to achieve is just a very neutral tone that I can use as the base to build my highlights and my shadows on. This horse in the photograph has lots of reflective qualities to it. So during the painting process of the details, it is going to be taking on a lot of the colors in the atmosphere. Its belly is going to end up being of an orange tone. It's going to have some, yellowy kind of tones on it. So it's going to have a lot of different tones, definitely a lot of white on it as well. But this nice neutral kind of light base will help us build those reflective traits in it. So once I've got the tone that I'm looking for, I'm really just going to paint in my horse. I don't need to paint it in any special direction or anything along that line. What I'm really looking to do is just make sure I maintain a good shape to my horse. I do have a tendency to paint my objects larger than I intended if I get rid of my guidelines. So what I do end up doing is kind of saving or having a little bit of my guidelines still evident around the edges. So as I go through that painting process, I won't accidentally make it too big. So you can certainly go right to the edge of your guidelines if you want to, but for me, leaving a little tiny evidence of them helps me to not make my object go too big. It just kind of keeps me in check the whole time. So as I'm doing this, again, this center area, I'm not doing anything fancy on, but when I get to the legs and the head, I will slow down because I want to just make sure that I maintain the shape that I want. So as I'm going through this, if I find that I want to add a little extra bump or anything like that, I can certainly do that, but I want to just kind of go slow, which I don't typically do, but these are tiny little skinny legs, so I'm going to just kind of take my time as I come down these legs so I can maintain the shape that I wanted. And of course, looking at the photo, I can certainly, as I'm coming down, I can say, well, maybe I should bump this ankle part out a little bit more, or maybe I shouldn't put this hoof this big, or whatever you feel might be a little bit of an adjustment. And where the hoof meets the ankle, if you again just leave a little evidence of your guideline, that'll help you continue to stay on track and continue to understand where you wanted those two particular sections to meet. And then of course I'm going to come down in through here. I do have a good amount of paint on my brush, so I can have a nice continual line on the exterior portion, or a nice kind of clean edge to it. But that's, again, we've got lots of painting to go, so if you don't have a nice clean edge right now, that's all right. We've got, plenty to go. And of course, this is a short-haired animal, so it's not necessarily going to have a lot of texture to the fur, so you can have these nice smooth gradients. You can keep the your edges nice and smooth. The only time that there's going to be some long fur or hair is going to be when we get to the mane and the tail. And then right here, I feel like this probably needs to just kind of stay in here. That chalk mark might have been a little wide. And because I use chalk a lot of time for my outline, chalk definitely does not provide skinny, perfect guidelines to follow. So as you're becoming comfortable with the different tools that you can use for different steps or processes, you'll find, well, maybe you love using chalk or maybe you hate using chalk. There's so many options when it comes to doing the same task. So for me, I like using chalk because it erases really easy, and I can show you guys very simply with the light color on camera. But the main thing for me with that chalk is it can erase really easily, and I can get it to disappear if I do something that I didn't intend to do. Sometimes when you're using a drawing utensil such as pencil, that can be a bit challenging. Or I have on many occasions used paint as my drawing utensil, and that just means that if I make a mistake, I've got to find a way to paint over it and correct it that way. So sometimes the correction process can be a little bit more challenging, but of course those challenging times are what makes our skill set increase and make us have a little bit more tricks up our sleeve, because we know how to correct a lot more stuff. So again, just keeping this front ankle pretty narrow, and then there's a little bump out before that hoof, and then I just painted over my little hoof line, but that's okay. No worries. We're just gonna find it. This one is easy to find because it's in such a position that'll be easy to find along that joint. And then just gonna come down in through here. And again, because my whole horse is of a similar color, it makes this base coat really nice and simple. So we're just going to be, once we've got the base coat on here, we'll just have to find where we need to strategically put our highlights and our shadows and put our pretty mane on, and then it'll be a beautiful horse in an autumn setting. So something like this, and then this little hoof just kind of comes out this back side. And again, I'm leaving just a little tiny evidence of that chalk so I don't lose my way through that painting process. And then I'm going to go ahead, going to do these little ears. So for the ears, you just want to kind of make each one of a similar shape, is what I'm seeing in the photo. So they're pretty pointy and narrow, and kind of just, this horse just looks like it's having so much fun, just frolicking through the autumn forest. You could also use a smaller brush to get these ears on, so wherever your comfort zone is totally fine. But whatever you do on one, just if you can make the other one of a similar shape, that's awesome. This one on the left is the one that's closest to the viewer. I don't know if that helps you out any or not, but it's going to be the one that we're going to see on this side of the head, on the viewer side of the head. So something like that. And then just, of course, bring this all in through here. And my hand was smudging into the face chalk. That's another challenge with chalk, is if your hand goes through it, you're going to have chalk all over your canvas. But again, it's easy to erase. Oh, another thing that I didn't do with the chalk, because it was such a tiny area, I'm going to make a little eye bump in a minute too. Let me just get this neck area painted in. So the eye bump, well, let me get the nose first. We'll get this nose done, and then I'll guide you through making an eye socket on the far side of the head. So let me just get this painted in. Sometimes do it in the drawing process. Like I did this nostril, which might be a little aggressive of a bump, but during the drawing process, sometimes it might be a little bit too much to take on all of those little lumps and bumps and stuff along the way. Sometimes it's just easier to do that basic shape and then add the extra little additions to the shape as you go through the painting process. So I feel like that bump for the nostril was a bit too large, so I'm just kind of making mine a little bit smaller in through there. I'm going to finish up this shape of the head in through here, and then I'm going to put a tiny little eye socket on. So I'm going to put it right about in through here. Just a little bump going out like that. It doesn't have to be much, just an itty bitty bit. That'll be the eye socket. And then once you've got this done, we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can paint out any spots that might be a little bit thicker, so that way you'll have a nice smooth coat to your horse, and then you can just wash and dry this brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the shadow on the ground, and we're going to do the first step to the fur on the horse. I'm using my number 4 round brush. The colors, the only colors I think I'm going to use in this step are brown, black, and gray, and my white. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put a shadow underneath my horse in through here, a really dominant shadow, so it'll be really nice and dark. And then I'm going to start my fur, which is going to start the contours of the body and help to tell the story of that sunshine, which is going to put shadows down on this left side of the body and real big highlights on the top of the back, on the top of the nose, and on the edges of the legs. So I'm going to start with my dark areas and I'm going to work my way to the light. What I'm really going to be doing in this step is kind of creating what's referred to as kind of a gray scale on the horse. I'm going to be adding additional colors later because this horse in the photo is very reflective and has other colors on it, but I don't want to overcomplicate my painting process. So first I'm going to put in these this grayscale type of effect to make sure I have my my tonal values set properly, and then I'll add my additional colors as almost like glazes on top of it. So I'm going to start with my shadow. I'm going to be using my my number 4 brush. I'm going to start with just brown paint on my brush to put my shadow in place because I want it to really be pretty prominent, but I want it to also intermingle with this really textured grassy area. So I'm going to start right behind this hoof in through here. This hoof is on the ground, so I'm just going to kind of tap in some dark area in through here. I'm going to bring it right along here, and then as I come over in this direction, I'm doing kind of a broader area down towards the bottom of my canvas. I'm bringing it kind of, I guess there was a little in the picture, a little light area between that, so I'll have to put that back in because I just made it dark. There's leaves that are being lit up right in front of this hoof right in through here, so I got to put those back in. And then I'm just making this really dark here. It takes on kind of the shape of the horse. I am going to add some black in a minute, but I'm starting with brown just again so I can get that textural effect. This shadow needs to be away from this foot to make that foot look like it's off the ground. So I'm going to put this down a little bit in through here. So that's pretty good placement on the shadow itself. And now I'm going to pick up some black paint to make this shadow even darker. So I'm taking the black and right now I'm just kind of dotting it in there so it allows for some of that brown to show, as well as allowing this this black to really set in and take on a nice deep dark shadow. And again, just kind of bringing this in through here. And if you don't feel that your shadow is dark enough or compelling enough or have enough contrast to it, you can always lighten up the leaves near it. So that's a way to get the effect of a powerful shadow without having to, you know, darken the actual shadow itself even more. So I'm actually going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put some of those light leaves back. So yellow, orange, and white are going back on my brush. I'm going to just kind of tap in a couple of light leaves right in through here just to get that little effect by sometimes the things are not totally necessary, but in my head as I'm painting, I'm like, but I like that little effect in the photo. So, and again, this is something that you can do to just, mimic those little tiny nuances in the photo. If you're seeing it, just feel free to do it. And you could put some over in through here. I didn't say I was using orange and yellow on this step, but I clearly am. So orange and yellow are getting added to the color list for this particular step. And same thing here. If it's not compelling enough, if it doesn't feel like it's lifted off the ground, just lighten up those leaves right underneath that hoof, and that'll make it look like it's nice and light. So now what I'm going to do is, if I can ever stop making leaves, I'm going to stop, I swear. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to start adding the contours or the dark areas on the horse. I'm going to start with just brown. So I washed and dried my brush. I'm starting with brown. I know that I need a little on the underside of the horse. So I'm going to come right in this corner in through here. I'm going to put this dark area right in through here. And then what I can do is I can kind of I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel and just bringing up that little belly line up the side of the horse in through here to give that contour in through there. And then this darkness can just kind of fade down into the leg. So you don't necessarily have to go all the way black, but making these dark, shadowy kind of areas, a lot of this bottom leg in through here I'm seeing is pretty dark. So I'm just kind of gonna go pretty much all brown on this bottom section of the leg. It's pretty dark in through here. I'm seeing this whole bottom of the leg is pretty darn dark, so I'm going for it, just making it dark. The hoof is almost black, so I'm going to use a little bit of brown and black on the hoof part and through here. So now's the time, as you're getting one section is meeting another. If you want to eliminate those guidelines, you can certainly start doing that. And if you need to reshape anything, I'm picking up a little bit more brown right now to get, again, this bottom part is pretty darn dark. So my brown is transparent, which means I'm going to be able to see through it. So I can use that to my advantage as I'm doing this. I can do it thicker in some areas and thinner in other areas in order to show that gray underneath it. So like this leg part kind of comes in front of here, so I can leave a little bit of that gray showing, but I still see a lot of darkness on this thigh and through here. So I just washed my brush and picked up just brown because I didn't want the black to taint it. So I picked up a little bit more brown, and I'm just getting this area to be a little bit darker in through here. This probably needs to be, that looks pretty good, like that. And you can certainly, if you don't get it as dark as you want, you can certainly adjust it later. I feel like this little knuckle back here could be a little bit darker, so I just picked up a touch of black. And even in this little crevice right here, I could put just a little extra black in through there just to get that a little darker. And you can adjust these values too as you go through the painting process. So this is the leg closest to us, but we still see that belly has made a little bit of a shadow on that thigh. And then this leg is the back leg. So I'm going to pick up more brown on my brush, and I'm just going to draw a line from here to here, give myself a little curve like that, and then I'm going to color this under part with the dark stuff that's on my brush, like this. And I just bumped into the belly a little bit, which I'm all right with. I'm going to put a little bit additional water on my brush so I can get this to kind of blend down and spread down that leg. There's a little dark area back here, so I'm really just kind of looking for the darkest areas on the legs right now. And I'm adding black and brown into those areas to give them their dark values, and I'm leaving the light areas. So like this leg has a light area right on the front of it. So I'm going to just leave that section light, so that way when I go to add that highlight that it deserves, I've already got it established. There's also a light area on this front part in through here, so I'm just going to add my darkness over here on the back side like this. And then this hoof is almost black, so I'm going to just pick up some black, put that on the hoof in through here. It's got a little bit of lightness on that right hand side, so I just wiped my brush off and picked up a little bit of brown. So something like that will work out for me for that one. And that's good for that leg. I'm going to do the same thing. I think I'm going to actually hit this leg first, and then we'll work on that belly area. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and get this underside of this leg in through here. So this is a little tricky because it's got the chest muscle in through here as well. So this is going to get some darkness up into that chest a little bit, something like that. And I like to use the side of my bristles to kind of rub the paint out. You could use a shorter bristled brush, but I a lot of times like using these rounds because I can use the point of the brush to put the paint where I want it to go, and then I'll use the side of those bristles to kind of blend it out a little bit. This leg has a big bright spot on the top of its leg as well as on this knuckle area, so I'm going to just leave that light and just put my darkness in through here and then pull my darkness down this leg in through here. And then as it comes down towards this knuckle in through here, this is all pretty dark, except for there's a little light area right on the top portion that's being lit up by that beautiful sun. I'm picking up some black now for the bottom part of this hoof in through here. So something like that. And you can always, I'm putting a tiny bit of water on my brush because my bristle is a bit large for this area. So the water on my brush helps to kind of just spread it out without having to pull a smaller brush into the equation. And if you are ready to start removing your guidelines, you can certainly paint out right to them. So that looks pretty good for that leg. Now I'm going to move into this belly area. I don't necessarily need it to go as dark as these guys, so I'm going to pick up brown plus gray. So brown plus gray, so I can get it dark but not as dark as those leg areas. So this is brown plus a little bit of gray, and I'm just going to rub it out, bringing it up here because I want the bottom of the belly to be a little bit darker but not necessarily as dark as those legs. So something like this, and then this also can come up here to separate this leg from the belly. And then I'm just going to pick up a little bit more gray to get this to blend out like this. So we've got the separation between the leg and the belly, and we also have a little tonal shift going down under that belly. And there's also a little muscle in through here, so I'm going to do the same thing with a little bit of brown and my gray. So somewhere right about in through here is where I have a little muscle happening. And then it comes, probably brought that down a little bit too far. It comes somewhere in through here, across the chest, in through here. I keep wiping my brush off to control the amount of paint. I'm picking up some gray now to just blend that out along the edges. And again, this is the first pass. So if you don't get it exactly as you had hoped it would be, it's okay, because we've got another pass coming. Now I'm going to go ahead down this leg, picking up some brown. This is going to be this left side of this leg in through here. Gets it pretty dark on this left side, kind of right down to the knuckle. There's a lot of lightness right in through here. And then on the knuckle, it's pretty dark, kind of coming down in through here, a little bit on that top. The middle part seems to be lighter, so it sticks out to the viewer. Darker down here. I'm pretty much just brown on my brush right now. And then as I come down towards the hoof, I'm going to go brown with a little bit of black. There's a big light spot on the top of this area, so I'm going to leave that gray color there and just darken up where I see that it's dark in through here, and then the hoof itself right in through here gets, I'm going to put a little bit more black on my brush just to make sure that that gets nice and dark. It seems to be going down at a side angle, something like this. That looks pretty good. And then the rest of the body, I'm gonna wash my brush because I know that I have black on it right now. I'm going to do a second layer of my gray, and if there's any areas that I feel need to go a little bit darker, like this area might need a little bit of gray and brown to kind of match what I did in that belly. So I have gray and brown on my brush right now, just to get this area to go a little bit darker than the original gray. That looks pretty good. And then in through here, I'm just gonna kind of rub out whatever I have on my brush. I need a little bit of this kind of color right in through here, so gray plus a touch of brown. Going up this underside of the neck, chest area, something like this. And then the underside of the neck is got a little darkness to it, but not a whole heck of a lot, so mostly gray, just a touch of the brown is on my brush right now. Giving myself just kind of a quick pass there, a little bit on this side, right in through here, not much, and then maybe a little bit where that the back of the neck goes right in through here. Again, not much, and you can always adjust it as we go through the additional painting process. Picking up a little bit of gray just to get this to blend out just a little more gently in through there. And then on the face, I am gonna put just a little bit of darkness right now. We're gonna do lots of detail on the face in a little bit, but I wanna just kind of put a little bit, I just picked up brown. I'm putting a little bit on this bottom side of the face in through here, just to kind of get this process started right in that nostril area, putting a little bit of brown, and then up this side of the face in through here. I'm just going to put a little bit of brown right now just to kind of get the party started on the face, like this. That looks good. Putting a little bit of brown in the ears. So just a little bit of brown on my brush. Just getting a little bit, not that much. There's a real big highlight around the edges of the ears. So I'm just going to put this little bit of brown kind of in the center of the ears, something like that. This one kind of comes down onto the head. That looks good. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm just going to put in a couple of quick areas of white paint. So wash and dry my brush. I just picked up some white paint. I'm going to start these really bright highlight parts. So I've got a huge bright area on the back of the horse in through here. And again, it doesn't have to be a solid color right now, just something that's going to start the process. This kind of comes down the rear end like this, and then on its belly edge and through here, it kind of just takes on little, I don't want to call them ripples, but they kind of look like little ripples of the body, or just the way that the fur is laying on the body and catching the colors from the surrounding area. So that looks pretty good. And then I'll do the same thing with the face and a couple of little spots on the side of the horse. So the head in through here has a big white spot on the top. So you can just kind of take this whole area in the center of the face like this and just kind of come right down that muzzle with white. And I'm going to bring it down just a little bit on top of that that nostril, and just a little bit down over this nostril like that. And again, I'm not doing anything other than laying down some white paint right now. I left that a little sliver of this eye, so I'm going to just put white paint like that. So we've just created a little contour where that eye dips in. And then just a little bit more white paint to come. Oh, I just picked up orange. We don't want orange. A little bit of white paint is going to come actually over this little eye here. So I'm just going to give a little quick swipe like that. And then just let this white area kind of fade up into that head like that. And I think that's all. Oh, a couple of little white stripes down the side. So little white is on my brush right now. I'm going to just scoot it right down the edge of the horse in through here. and just right down this chest, give a little section in through there. I'm going to put a tiny bit of white paint right on this knuckle. Again, I'm just setting these little tonal values here. Some of this might stay white, but right now I'm just giving myself the opportunity to build these really bright areas. So just like this. And this is a great way to kind of expedite, if you will, a coloring of a painting. If you can just get those values in first, especially when the painting has a lot of complicated kind of small blends. This helps to alleviate the having to make 30 shades of gray. You can really just kind of set these values in and then just build easily those additional colors on top of it, a little bit over in through here. And I think that's all I'm going to do for this step. So once you've got this in place, we are going to be using our small brush for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out the small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the head or the face. I'm going to be using my small number 0 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, red, gray, white, and orange. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting a little eye in place, and with black, we're going to let that dry. And while that's drying, we're going to go and finish the details on the underside of the face and in the nostrils and all that good stuff. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of black paint on my brush with a little bit of water on my brush, so I have fluidity in my paint. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a little kind of oval type of section in through here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think for me, when I'm painting animal features, I really like them to have some natural form to them and little fur around them, and maybe you put a little dip in the skin kind of in the inner corner of the eye. So I really like to kind of be loose when I'm doing animal eyes, just because I know that there's so many little pieces of fur and stuff around them, and I think that just kind of makes them look a little bit more natural. So I'm just starting with black right now, and I'll add additional information to it in a minute. But while that's drying, with that little bit of black paint that I have on my brush, I'm going to come right into this nostril, and I'm going to put a dark area up at the inner top side of that nostril. I know I have too much paint on my brush right now, so I'm going to wet my brush and wipe it off on my paper towel, and then put a little bit more water on my brush so I can take the black paint that I just put there and I can rub it down that nostril. So what this is going to do is it's going to make it look like it's darker going into the nostril and kind of lightens up as it comes out of the nostril. So something like that. I also, in this picture, notice that there's a lot of darkness behind the nostril on the face in through here. So I'm going to use the remnants of that black that's on my brush with a little bit of water just to darken this face a little bit in through here. And again, I'm just using a little bit of watered down black paint. You could use a brush that kind of scrubs a little bit harder than mine, but with the water on my brush, it allows me to just kind of move it around and thin it out to make it look like it's blending with that color that's next to it. There's a little bit of darkness in between those nostrils as well, so I can pick up a little bit more of my black paint and just, if I need to darken this any, right in through here just to get the effect of it dipping in, I certainly can. And then if I needed to put a little bit more brown or anything along the bottom of that, like I feel like I could use a touch more brown, just maybe where the mouth, you can't really detect the mouth too much in the photo, but it looks like there's a little dark area in through here. So I'm going to just kind of imply that, and maybe a little bit more darkness right in through here. I'm again going to put, there's going to be a little bit of an orange tone to this in a bit, but right now just trying to make sure I've got the darkness the way that I want it. That looks pretty good. I think I need to just darken that area a little bit more in through there. So that looks pretty good. I like what's happening on the side of here. Underneath this chin, I want a little bit more brown, so just the remnants on my brush plus a little bit of water is going to get that to happen in through here. And again, I'll add a little bit of orange to it in a minute. So that's good right now. I'm going to let that set. I'm going to go finish that eye, washing and drying my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my gray, so a teeny touch of my gray, and I'm going to put just a little tiny highlight, if you will, on that inner portion of the eye, just a itty bitty bit, and then I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white on my brush to put a couple little white eyelashes. These eyelashes are going to overlap this top left corner of the eye in through here. So just little tiny eyelashes. I think maybe a little bit more white to get a little more drama on that. So just tiny little dots or little pull out marks is going to give me just a little eyelashes in through there. And if you do too much, like that last mark was just too much, just pick up a tiny bit of black and you can back it off just a little bit. So that looks good to me. I don't need to do much to that eye. There's really not much going on there. I'm picking up a little bit of water on my dirty brush just to get a little bit more shadow underneath the eye in through here. Just a teeny tiny bit so we can get that to happen. And that looks good to me. So now I just want to finesse a little bit of the colors on here. I like the way the top of the head looks right now. I do feel I need a little bit more white just to kind of make sure I have it as bright as I want, and that I've got a nice bright area right over this eye in through here. So as bright as that can get, just go ahead and put that in there. A little bit of a dark dip right in through here will give you the where the eye socket kind of dips in, and then this front part nice and bright. That works for me. That's nice and bright. Just picking up a little bit more white so I can make sure that this is as bright as I want it over here with just a teeny tiny gray spot in through there. So that looks good. Now I'm going to add my little bits of colors throughout here. So I know on the nose I want a little bit of a pinkish hue. So I'm going to pick up a touch of brown, red, and gray on my brush at the same time. So brown, red, and gray. And this is going to give me a little bit, maybe a little bit more gray and red. That brown made it a little too dark. This is going to give me just a hint of a little pinkish hue on here. I don't need it much, just a itty bitty bit, and maybe just a tiny bit going up into that nostril. Again, you can add a little bit of water to your brush if you need it to be any more or less. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white to enhance this little edge of this nostril as well. So right now I'm just doing these little tiny tweaks and fiddles in order to get the colors that I want. Down in through here, and the bottom side of the face has an orange hue to it. So I washed my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange, and I'm with a touch of water, and I'm going to put it on as if it's like a glaze on here. So a glaze is just a transparent layer of paint. So this horse has a lot of it's bouncing off a lot of the colors in the neighboring area. If that wasn't bright enough for you or orange enough, you can certainly add more orange. You could certainly add more yellow to it. You could add more white to it to get it into that hue that you want. You could add red to it, whatever works for you. I'm going to put just a tiny bit on the muzzle in through here, not a lot, just a little hue of it. And my orange is pretty see-through anyways, so I don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot, just kind of bring it out over in through here. And if I wanted it more, I could certainly add more. In through here, I feel like it might be a little bit more of a grayer tone. So what I could do is, instead of using my warm gray, I could use a cooler gray, which would just be black and white. So if I just take a little bit of black and white, this gray will look cooler than what I already created over previously. So it may look a little bit more on the bluer side. If you put a cool gray next to a warm gray, you will get you'll get a little bit of a bluish type of a hue. It's not really blue, it just looks cooler next to that warm tone. And I've got a little bit of extra darkness in through here, down this side of the face, in through here. So it's just playing with those little values of the temperatures of the paint. So something like that looks good, and then I just want to make sure that it blends in nicely here. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more black, and these again are little nuances that are not totally necessary to create a good painting, but if you want to give it that more realistic look to it, being able to accomplish these little tonal shifts and the color value gradations, those are the things that are going to make it look a little bit more realistic. So I think that that's pretty good for my face. Maybe just a little bit more over in through here. So I'm going to pick up my original gray just to make sure that I've got this area. Oh, that was on a dirty brush, so we're going to get another little value in here, which is totally fine, but I feel it's a little bit flat back here, so I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint just to give it a little bit more volume on this cheek back in through here, or on this area right behind that eye. And then I'm just going to do my little fiddles. I don't think I have much more to do, maybe just a little highlight behind the eye underneath here. And if the eye didn't pop out enough, like I feel it might need to sink in a little bit more, I just picked up some of that the darker gray or the cooler gray, and I'm putting a little bit of that up in through here just to get that eye to pop out just a little bit more. And then we're going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can make any little adjustments that you feel are necessary, and you can wash it and dry it, add a little bit more lightness in through there, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the body. We'll do the mane and the tail in a future step. I'm going to start with my number 0 round, but I'm probably going to move into my number 4 round as I move into the body. So we're going to be doing something very similar to what we just did to the face, just making sure that you've got all your areas as dark as you want and as light as you want, and then we'll add these little these little color variations. So I feel as if I've got everything pretty well in place. I'm going to start with my dark areas, and I feel as if because I did put that tonal layer on where I have my darks and my lights, I might just be able to get away with doing these little glazes on top. So again, these are the transparent layers of the paint. So in this step, I'm definitely going to be using brown, red, white, gray, that light warm gray, plus the cool gray that we just made for the face. I'll probably use a little bit of that or some variation of it. And orange. I don't know if I said orange. And I think that should be it. So I think I'm going to just start with the bottom and work my way up, work with my little hoofs first. I'm going to just pick up a little bit of brown right now just to put a second layer on where I feel it needs to be put. And if I felt there was any little areas that needed a highlight, like the top of back here, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of white or, white and orange or something while I'm there, and then just pop on a little kind of marking like that. So it looks like we can see the other side. You could even, if you were having any difficulty seeing your hoofs with the contrast of what they're on, you could always add a teeny light edge to them. But I wouldn't do that a lot, just a teeny bit if you felt that you needed that look. I even feel like this hoof might be a little strangely shaped. So I feel as if this needs to connect in through here. So I'm gonna just add a little bit more. This should be the knuckle area in through here. And I think this needs to just kind of be a more gradual. Yeah, that looks better to me. It looked a little disconnected in through there. That looks good. And then I'm moving on to the other hoof just so I can get the hoofs out of the way. I think that this one looks pretty good. I don't really need to do anything to that. And when I say hoofs, I'm just talking about the brown, the hoof area, not the ankle area. I just put some brown and white on my brush to get this right area on this one, just to get that on there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white to, oh, there was maybe a little white and yellow on my brush there, but that's all right. And just get that little edge of this hoof to be a little bit lighter. That looks pretty good. This back one, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white just to get this little back area in through here. Sometimes you don't need to do much. I just picked up black to get this a little bit darker in through here. So I'm just making those little adjustments right now to finalize it. So I've got a little bit of black, just darkening that one up. I had it a little bit too light. And then I think I can get away with, I'm picking up a little bit of orange on the bottom of this one, just to add a little, looks like it's got a little reflective quality on this one in through here. So just a little tiny bit of the orange. These guys look pretty good in through there. So that's fine for my hoofs. I'm going to move on to my legs. I think I'm going to start with this inside leg with a little bit of orange. I think just a little bit of orange and water on my brush to turn this a little, give this that orange hue that I was talking about. There's a lot of it on this horse. It's just, you'll find that, oops, it went into the belly. You'll find that as you're learning how to paint animals and things that have fur, there's so many things in this world that just have reflective qualities to them, and fur is definitely one of them. Down in through here, I think I'm going to go into some of that cool gray, which I'm going to make more of. So it's just the black and white, making myself a little bit cooler, but maybe a little bit darker of a gray. I just picked up a little bit of a different, like orange or something, so that's not going to keep it cool, but that's all right. And I'm just going to put a little bit more tone shift down in through here with maybe a touch of black. So it looks like there's just a little bit more happening down on this little ankle part in through here, and maybe just a little bit in through here. So I'm just looking for little tendons and stuff like that that might have darker areas to them that would make a section of the leg sink in, or maybe have a little bit more information to it. I'm picking up a little bit more black to get the bottom side of this ankle area in through here to just show up a little bit more. There we go, that looks good. And again, I don't need it to be 100% photo realistic. I'm just looking to get a good representation. So I'm digging that leg. I think that's fine. I'm going to move on to this one in through here. So I do have some of that orange hue right up and through here. So I'm going to start with that orange on my brush and just kind of give myself that as a jump start with you know, I'm gonna use this orange while I've got it. I feel I just need to put it where it needs to go. So we're gonna put it here too. It needs to go here. And it also, let me just put a little water on my brush, get it to kind of go up that belly area like that. I see it just a little bit in through here, so very little bit on my brush with water. That's what's giving me the power to just kind of rub it around and get it to kind of just blend into the neighboring colors and just lay on top of the neighboring colors. So again, I'm just going with some orange right now and water on my brush and just giving myself a glaze on these areas that have the orange. It just seemed like it was going to be a better expedited process than going one section at a time. So with all the colors in whatever that section needed. So this orange is, I'm seeing it everywhere on the horse, not everywhere, but a lot of places it's reflecting. So we're gonna go for it and just put it where I feel it needs it, and then we'll finish up with the other aspects. So I got it in through here. I feel it's just a touch in this guy in through here. So lots of water is on my brush right now. I'm just putting it in there. Teeny tiny bit on this neck. And because I'm using chrome orange has a lot of yellow in it. So the thinner I use it, the more of almost a yellow hue it's giving it, which is exactly what's happening in the photo. So we're kind of going with that. That looks pretty good. So now I just need a little bit more information on these legs. I want to come down here with that cooler kind of dark gray. I feel that I can put this on in through here and give myself that additional kind of information that I see in the photo. So something like that. And then maybe a little bit underneath this knee, and then picking up a tiny bit of black. So again, just kind of going through and saying, all right, where's those dark spots? Is there any other additional colors that I see that I can use to identify the different parts of the horse's legs? So I've got definitely some darkness in through here. And again, right now I'm using black plus a little bit of water. There's definitely this dark area of the leg right in through here. There's a little bit of that orange on this part of the leg too that I missed. So I'll take care of that in a second. I probably don't really need to. That looks pretty good. Just blend this in a little bit more. That looks pretty good. This leg in through here, I'm gonna wash my brush. I'm gonna pick up some of that cooler dark gray. We got some on this knee, kind of in through here, as well as down this bottom part, in through here. Oops, brush got away from me. And then a little bit of black to give me, there's more information on this knee that I want to put in. So something like that. And again, I don't need to know all of the parts of a horse in order to paint a horse. I'm really looking to put things in proper proportion. So how big is that head compared to its leg? How big is the leg compared to the other leg? Putting it in proportion is going, the various objects of the horse or the various sections of the horse, putting them in proportion with what the horse actually is. That's what's going to make it look realistic. I'm picking up a little brown now on with water on my brush. You don't necessarily need to know every single part of the horse to get it right. You just have to be observant. So as I'm going through my process, I'm being observant. There's a light area right here. So I'm going back into my light gray and making sure that this area stays light. Why is it there? Something with the anatomy on the horse. So I don't necessarily know exactly, the right terminology or the right whatever it is, but I do know that I see a light area and then I see a dark area right in through here. And I can see where it is in relationship to something else. So I can see where it is in relationship to this other dip in the chest. I also am noticing that there's a little extra darkness in through here and right here, which is going to make this little chest muscle pop out. So I can add a tiny bit of white on my brush also this was a little orange piece, but I'm noticing it's a little light piece now too. So again, just those little nuances are going to help you make it look more realistic. On this leg here, I just need a tiny bit more lightness right in through here. And then I think that does it for that leg with this bright white stripe right down here. And a little bit of my, what do I need on that knee? Maybe a little bit more of that cool gray to just get this knee to pop out just a little bit more. So that looks pretty good. That leg's good. This leg back here, I think I just need a little finessing. Not much, maybe a little bit of brown and black down on the front side of this shin. It might not be the right word for it, but you know, the front part of the bottom part of on the back leg. So a little bit of darkness here is just going to make these little pieces show up, this little bent ankle. Put a little bit of darkness there, that gets that to show up. That looks pretty good. In through here, I'm pretty happy with that. This is nice and dark, happy with that, just making sure it blends in enough. And then this area in through here, I feel like I want a little bit more brown and orange right in through here. So I picked up a little bit of brown and orange and just gonna blend that out a little bit. That looks pretty good. And then I just need to make sure that this whole part kind of blends a little bit more. So I'm gonna just pick up, I think I'm gonna pick up the the original gray plus the darker, cooler gray, just to get this a little bit more blended out back here. I just put water on my brush, a little bit more water on my brush, get this to blend out. And that's, you know, I love using my thinned out paint to give me these layers. I'm picking up a tiny bit of brown right now. And it's the way that I like to paint. You might find that you want a thicker bodied paint that isn't as transparent as mine, but blends better for you. Those are the kind of things that I just picked up the darker, cooler gray. Those are the type of things that as you are developing your painting style, you decide what works best for you, and you go with that. So that's looking pretty good. I think now I'm going to be switching to my number 4 because I feel I'm going to be working in larger areas and I want to have kind of a smoother blend, and the small brush is going to just give me small areas. So I want to make sure that I can get I'm just using a little water right now to erase my chalk marks, make sure I got those edges the way that I want it. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to move on to my number 4 round, and again I'm just kind of treat this similarly to the bottom. I'm going to start with a little bit of that darker, cooler gray with a little bit of water on my brush because I feel I need to deepen this just a little bit in through here so we can make sure that the muscle structure is identified well enough on the horse, and just get it to blend up in through here. And again, just that little bit of water helps me to kind of blend it out as much as I want it to. And I can just pull that right up and through there. That looks pretty good. And then I feel I want a little bit more darkness over on this side. So again, just a little bit of that watered down darker gray right now is gonna get me just these little cooler, darker areas in through there. Maybe a little bit on this chest area in through here. And this is gonna help my muscles pop out a little bit more. Again, I'm not doing a whole heck of a lot. I'm just watching my picture and I'm saying, all right, where do I need to push part of the body back? Where do I need to pull it forward? And the push back is going to come with these this little bit of a darker tone in through here, and then the pull forward is going to come with a lighter version of it. So this is working out really well in through here. Now I'm going to pick up that original lighter, warmer gray just to make sure that I've got this blended the way that I want. So I'm just kind of going in between there, allowing for these areas to blend in with each other. And then I can bring this up in through here, maybe just a little bit more of that cooler, darker gray, just to pop a little bit up in through here, a little bit around this belly area in through here. It looks like there's maybe just a little texture in through there. And then I would, I'm gonna hit that back with just a little bit more white, and I think that's all I'm gonna be doing for it. Maybe just make sure I've got the edge over here. Maybe pop this out just a little bit with a little tiny extra bit of white paint in through there. Make sure this leg has enough white paint, which I think it does, but we're just gonna add more. And then a little extra white up in through here. And if you felt that you wanted to add any additional colors, feel free to do so. You don't, again, it doesn't have to be exactly as mine. It can be a different colored horse. It can be, you know, whatever you imagine it to be. This is a rendition of a photo, so I'm using that as my inspiration, but you could, of course, take this wherever you want. I just put a little bit more of that darker gray on what's going to be near that neckline. And I think that that's pretty good. A little bit more up here. And I think that's good. We can finesse the neck more when we do the mane if we feel that it needs to be any more or less. And then I'm going to be using, I just put a little brown on my brush too. I'm going to be using my my small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this number 4 away, take out your small detail, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna paint the mane and the tail. I'm gonna be using my small detail brush. The colors I'm gonna use are white, yellow, brown, and maybe a little orange as well. There's not much to this area of what we're gonna be doing. It's just a little tiny part out of here that just kind of hides behind the leg and then kind of flips back out over here. And then the mane is pretty short on this horse, so it just kind of comes out in almost like a diagonal or a triangular type of shape with a little tiny bit above these ears. The ears, we can, if need be, after we put the mane on, if there's any little spots around the ears that need tweaking, we can certainly tackle that. So I am going to start with a little bit of brown paint, and I'm going to put all my dark shadowy areas that are going to meet the animal. I'm going to put that on first. So I have just a little area between the ears where there's going to be a dark area, and then right behind the ear, kind of coming down the neck in through here. The mane actually kind of comes over the back just a little bit, so I'm going to put that over the back just a little bit in through here. It doesn't come all the way, the mane doesn't come all the way down this horse's back. It only comes to about here, and then it just kind of flits out a little bit past that. Right now what I'm going to do, I put the brown on to start, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and orange. So I'm using yellow and orange on my dirty brush, and I'm just going to pull this out just a little bit more. It's going to be hard to see right now because it's on top of something dark, but this is how I'm going to start. So I've got this in through here with a little bit of yellow and orange. I'm going to do the same thing on the back side of the tail, but you're not going to see the brown on the brown, so it doesn't make sense to do that. So I'm going to actually pick up brown and white on my brush to get this to pop out. I would say somewhere right about in through here. So just a little bit of brown and white is where it's going to start to pop out in through here, and then it comes right down and doesn't come much farther than here. So it's just popping out a little itty bitty bit in through here, and I just did it with brown and white is how I'm starting it, and I'm just pulling out these little tiny pieces like that. And then what it does is it tucks back behind the rear end and kind of re-emerges over in through here, and then just kind of comes down like this. And then I'm just using brown and white to get this in play, and then we'll add some additional colors to it in a minute. So it comes down like this, and then it just flips up like it's really just having fun. So just a little, I just popped a little bit of water on my brush too to get it to have nice skinny little pieces. I'm just kind of flipping up the tail in through here with these really just tiny little flitty kind of pieces. A little bit of extra white is going on my brush right now to pull out. There's a couple of little fun pieces that are just, they're just having fun. That's what this tail is doing. So something like this. So that's how I'm going to start it. And now I'm going to go, while this is drying, I'm going to go back up top with my brown and white. And I'm going to start pulling this out in the size that I feel it's going to inevitably be. I'm going to use more white than brown. And it looks like it's got a pretty big area back in through here and over, kind of coming out the top of the ears. It looks like there might even be a little piece kind of in front of that ear, something like this, and then maybe even just a little piece kind of going around the head over in through there. And again, this is brown and white on my brush, and it's just going to kind of come out and just fly around like this. Again, I'm not doing it very long because it's not very long. This is oftentimes when I'm doing horses, they have really long manes, but this one is not super duper long. So we're just going to go with what it's telling us to do in the photo. And again, I'm actually going to, I'm adding more water to my paint so I can get really skinny little pieces. So I'm watering down my brown and white so I can get just a couple of little, yeah, there we go. Sometimes you just gotta play with it a little bit more so you can get happen what you want to happen. I don't want it to be too thick of a mane. It really just has these beautiful little peekaboo spots along the edges. So that's what I'm looking to accomplish. So it comes here, and then there's these little pieces that kind of fly out a little bit in through here. So we're just gonna give those little edges a bit, and right behind that head it's nice and light, and then there's a couple little pieces that just kind of fly out in through here. And again, you don't have to get every single piece of hair exactly where it is in the photo, but if you're trying to emulate something that is in motion and you've got a great reference guide or reference visual to take you on that journey, that's, you know, follow it. While that's drying, I am going to put more color on that in a minute, but I want to go down to the tail for a second here. So again, this is my brown and white. I'm going to get this to go brighter at this part where it kind of crests over, and allow this to just kind of have some motion in through there, and let it fall down in through here, fall down behind that that rear end. And then we're going to get a couple, we already got those pieces over there. I need a couple more in through here. I'm going to probably start adding the color. The tail has more color to it than the actual mane itself. So I'm going to pick up some orange to start on this tail, a little bit of orange in through here. Just give myself that little rich tone in through there, and I'm going to pick up some brown to put a couple of little brown streaks in through there. I think that's all I'm going to do for that portion of the tail. Maybe a little bit of brown and orange just right up in through here, just to pull that color in through there. And then I think that looks pretty good. And then up on here, I need to put a little bit, I think I'm going to pick up orange, yellow, and white to get this area right in through here to just kind of merge a little bit more. So this was red, yellow, and orange, yellow, and white right in this area as it's meeting the neck in through here. I also feel as though I need to put a little light area at the top of the back of the head. So I just washed my brush. I picked up a little bit of white, and I need a little bit of lightness on that fur in through here. So that works. I've got my darkness underneath it, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and white. So this is going to cause a light yellow effect to happen as that kind of orangey look is crossing over into the little white pieces that are going to be at the end. So this is just yellow and white. And again, this is just going to give me those luminescent little values in that in the fur or in the hair. And again, just yellow and white on top of what I already did. So this is kind of progressively allowing it to get into those white ends. And that I think looks pretty good. So now let me just pull a couple of these pieces in a little bit further like that. Now I'm gonna, I wipe my brush off. I'm gonna start picking up white and really kind of lay on some nice bright pieces in through here. Get them to go a little bit farther out and kind of more in the wind. And of course, yours can be much more hair, much less hair, whatever you want it to be. Maybe you even put a horn on it and make it a unicorn. You can really have fun with this and make it your own horse. This is, again, as I do these tutorials, I'm doing them to give you a guide, to give you a stepping stone, to give you a place to learn how to create something like this of your own. That doesn't mean you have to do the same exact painting I'm doing. It just means that you get to learn something that maybe you hadn't learned before, or you get to maybe practice a different technique that you might never have practiced before. So this just gives you kind of building blocks to make your art into whatever your own art is going to be in the long run. I definitely want a little bit more white up in through here. We really want this to look like he's catching a lot of that brightness from that sun, and then a little bit more on here. And then again, if you're going through this and you're saying, I need a little bit more contrast, then just add darker areas around those lighter areas, and that'll get you the contrast that you need. And then I'm thinking that I got myself a very fancy horse here, a very fancy horse that is really enjoying this beautiful autumn day. It probably has some great crisp air, and that's why the horse is just enjoying running through this autumn field. Yeah, I'm digging that. And so when you get to this point, this is kind of the fiddling stage. If you sit back and look at it, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more shadow or something on the neck. So I just put a little bit more brown on my brush, and now I'm picking up a little bit of black. So this is where I would just sit and say, oh, okay, well, I want a little more shadow up by the neck as that hair is coming off, or maybe I want less shadow, or maybe I want more hair, or maybe I want more of this or less of that. This is the stage where you just sit and fiddle. I definitely want a little bit more lightness on this tail, so this would be the yellow and the white if I wanted to do it that way, and then the white. And then you just bring it to these place that makes you visually happy, and when you're all set, we are going to be using this same small brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it, and if you can stop, get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm going to be using my small detail brush. I think I'm going to be signing this one. I don't think. I know I'm going to be signing this one in the bottom left. I'm using black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you can sign yours however you want. You can make up a special symbol. You can sign it with your full name. You can put the date on it. Whatever you want for your identifying mark is up to you, because it's your painting and you get to make those kind of decisions. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a beautiful autumn horse enjoying a lovely day. And I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.